I have 3 feathers left to do in this area, so I'm going to come in now with the middle feather, and then I'll be able to put one on each side of it. Start here at the top of the basket, and this feather I'm going to again do a curvy line. Like this. Then I'll come back, cross in the middle. We have an imaginary middle line here. To come back, cross in the middle, and come back like this. Now, if you're doing this on a real quilt in an area where you want it confined, then put your masking tape along the sides of the area that or your border or your sashing, and then you can actually measure and make some marks, and that's where you'll bring your heels and valleys to, so that you'll have very even areas for you to put your feathers in. This one is called the twisted feather, but when you do it freehand, you don't have to worry about using that masking tape, and this one is freehand. But we do want to make some nice curves here, like this, and then we'll curve all the way around, cross in the middle, back, cross in the middle, back, cross in the middle, back. So there's our stem. Now we're going to put feathers on the outside, so we're going to do feathers on the way up. As we come to this intersection, we will cross through the intersection. Don't worry about that intersection, just cross right through it. Don't do a feather through it, just sew through it. Here we go again, sewing through the intersection and starting our feather on the other side. Like that, crossing through the intersection. And there's 2 ways to change direction. You're changing direction, but your feathers aren't. We're going to make some bonnet feathers here. Those were just straight feathers. Now you see I'm coming down the stem. My feathers are still headed toward the edge of toward the end of the feather. All these feathers are going that way. I didn't come around and change direction on that. So down through the intersection. But I changed direction. First I was headed up the feather, and now I'm headed down the feather. Every time I come to the intersection, I just sew through it, through the intersection, and then start my next feather. You have to set yourself up for that feather. Now I'm going to do the inside feathers. It doesn't matter if you do the inside or outside first, or even if you cross. Sometimes you'll do inside, sometimes you'll do out. Doesn't make any difference. As long as you go through that intersection and not worrying about putting a feather there, just go right through it. Now at the top of this last feather, this would be a beautiful dead end feather, I'm going to do little kissing feathers, and it's important for you to really catch on to that because we're going to do those in several other places. So as I come up like this, I'm going to come halfway over, follow across the top of the feather to set myself up for the feathers coming down. Now that I'm in this position, I can come over like that. So you can see these 2 little feathers at the top are little kissing feathers, and I've changed direction. The feathers haven't changed direction. They're still headed toward the end of the feather. And I'm coming down through here doing this beautiful twisted feather. And it's so fun and fast to do this on your quilts, and very impressive to your customers. And then of course we could come back in and put 2003 or 2004, whatever year it is that you want to put into that feather. For our next feather, we're going to sew over here and come right in between these areas. This one is called a feather off of a feather, and we're going to do a little bit of a feather here like this. Then we're going to take a branch off of it like this, and we'll come over in this area because we have plenty of area there. Now the important thing is to do the feathers on the upside, and that is the upside, not the downside. The downside is where we come back into the feather. The upside, which is next to the feather that we have here, and you see we did those feathers there. Now we can follow that stem out again, and as we come down the feather this time, some of these feathers you see are now in a horizontal position, they're not even vertical. I'll just follow that stem around, and my feathers gradually can get a little larger. So you see that branch just integrated right back into the main stem, which is really, really a pretty way of doing that. So you can come out with a branch anywhere you want, or even just 2 or 3 little feathers like that, then come out again, and then as you come back down, you integrate that branch right back into your main stem of your feather. And we're going to come all the way down here like this. Then we'll come up with our double feather. You know, double stem feathers are so much prettier than single stem feathers. Once you start doing double stem feathers, the single stems look so weak, they don't look like a feather. Those double stems really look nice, even triple stems. Okay, so now you know you can come out anywhere that you need to fill in an area, you can come out with another feather. Our last large feather on this wall hanging is going to be, again, a teardrop feather, but we're going to do 4 variations with that teardrop. So let's bring our stem out right up to the corner here and make a teardrop. Now on this teardrop, I'm going to just stipple inside of the teardrop. Just a little stippling. Kind of work your way up, leave yourself enough room to work yourself down. We'll do one more with the stipple so you can get a good look at how that looks. We'll come down here. Now this time we're going to put a feathered bonnet on that teardrop. Well, that really makes it look fancy, doesn't it? I love the look of that. Just kind of put a, now again you can see if you do a feather on a quilt and you simply made the feather too big and it looks too plain, how easily you can come back in and fancy up that feather. Put a teardrop in and then do one of these designs on the teardrop. Very pretty. So we'll come out here with our double stem. And this time I'm going to, if you remember how we did these little kissing feathers on the twisted feather, I'm going to come inside of this one and I'm going to do these little feathers and do little kissing feathers at the top. And you'll see what a neat look that is. As you come in and do that little feathered design on the inside. Almost makes it look like a little pine cone in there. Follow the top around and set yourself up to come back. Now remember that you do have to change direction on those. So you change direction because you're going feathers up, and then as you come around, you're doing your feathers on the way down. You're changing direction, but your feathers are all headed up. And the last one that we're going to do is a polka dot teardrop. So we put our teardrop in there, and then using one side of the teardrop as our base to make that flat area. Remember, when we make a polka dot, we actually make it flat, round, flat, flat, round, flat, flat, round, flat, and then you can follow that teardrop right back down to the bottom. We're going to put a feathered star in the area that we have blank here. And to do that, we're going to use the star template with this circle around it. The star is on the inside. Fits through the foot, right through the opening, like that. And we'll go down and bring up our thread. I like to just pull that thread underneath the template there and hold on to it. Turn my speed down a little bit. And if you keep your foot right against the side of the template, it's going to make a perfect star. There we go. So that's our star template. Now we're going to put feathers on that star, and I think this is really good exercise for you in order to learn how to put feathers anywhere. The feathers at the end and the point of the star and on the inside are perfectly straight, and the other feathers all point toward the outside. So on the inside here I make a straight one, and then they point toward the outside, straight, point, point, straight, point, point, straight, and I'll draw that out on a piece of paper for you. I think it's a little easier for you to see exactly what I mean, so you can see how we have feathered this entire star, and because you're changing direction on those feathers. So if you have a star here, something like that, your feathers on the outside points are going to be straight, and on the inside points they're going to be straight out. So your feathers are going to be straight, lean toward the outside, and then straight, lean toward the outside, straight, lean, lean, straight. So that's what I'm talking about when I say straight feathers on the outside and the inside points. Underneath the pot, we're going to put some a table or ground, something there. And this time we'll make those curved. And remember, we're going to do this dimensional just like we did on the other one. Get my speed up here so I can keep up my stitch length. So a little bit denser stitching right underneath the pot like this. And then as I get toward the bottom of the wall hanging, these will get larger. And I'll come right over to the stitches, to the feathers. Like that. Now I'll go down and bring up my thread. And the very last thing, and we could have done that when we were over here, if I had remembered. I simply forgot that I was going to do that. And that would be to echo around one time on the inside of my feathered wreath, and then to simply do a little stipple design in here, and that shows up very pretty with this variegated thread. The colors come out very nice, and that also sets this off, this wreath, so that it becomes quite a focal point of this particular wall hanging. Cut all of our threads, and of course then you're going to want to take off your tape, and there's your second wall hanging.